As I look out over this cruel grey sea, I think to myself, how can I pay my penance to the people of Bournemouth, to the fans of Bournemouth, to all those Cherries fans? Look what I've done. I've besmirched their character. I said they'd never get here. To the pinnacle of English football, they've got here. I said I would throw myself into this cruel grey sea.
Mike, firstly,
yes,
the first question I've got to ask you
sure,
is why are you not very wet?
Well, a good question that, because of course this is Bournemouth Pier here, and I did make the vow that I would jump off Bournemouth Pier if Bournemouth got promotion, and of course you did. You had a brilliant season. I have been battling with authority ever since. Battling. I've even come down in the middle of the night to see if I could do it, you know, unobtrusively and pay my dues to the great Bournemouth people and the Bournemouth fans. But I always got caught out, and in fact if you look, and we have just looked, Kelly, around the pier there's even a fence right around the edge to stop nutters jumping off the pier. Well, not as nutters, anybody who wants to, and therefore it became impossible. I fought authority and no go.
Well, that is a shame, but you have been out there today and you've actually physically tried, and we couldn't get you off the end of the pier.
I didn't physically try because, of course, it's now against the law. It's a bylaw that you can't actually do it. But I did get as far as climbing up onto the rails, having a look over, and realising what an enormous job it would have been to get off that pier. It's quite a long way down.
Brilliant. Well, let's go back to the beginning.
Yep.
It's a very long story, and it all started before Christmas last year, so nearly a year ago.
Yes.
Fans are still going on about it. Talk us through your original tweet. What was going through your head? You probably never thought we were going to be sitting here still talking about it now.
Oh, certainly not. No, what happened was basically is that my family's been associated with Bournemouth for a long time. My sister lives here, my mum lives here, right? Now, when they first moved here, and that was because my brother-in-law was in banking and Barclays moved their base here, so my sister came with him. I mean, Bournemouth were, with the greatest of respect, a tin pot club, you know? And I used to take my nephew, Tom, who was about 4 or 5 years of age then, no problem, you know, and it was delightful because there was hardly anybody there and there was no problems. So when it all started building up towards, hang on, you know, I suddenly looked at the table after about 2 or 3 years and thought, Bournemouth on the brink of the Premier League? I thought it's ridiculous, because I remember the club as it was in those days, ramshackle, you know. So I just sent out a few casual tweets saying, look, you know, Bournemouth have done okay, don't get any grand ideas about getting to the Premier League. You know, clubs like yours, you know, with the sort of crowds you get, can have a great run and you all get enthusiastic, but, you know, you're going to find yourself badly let down because in the second half of the season, you'll run out of steam. That's what happens to clubs of your size. It won't be possible. Anyway, what I hadn't done, of course, is I hadn't calculated for what a brilliant manager you've got, what a great setup you've got, the way the club has changed so dramatically over the years, and that, in fact, you were preparing yourselves to become a Premier League club, and you made it. And so when it came to after Christmas, and I thought, there's a chance this might work, but I don't think so. I better get in quick. I said, if you make it, I will jump off the end of Bournemouth Pier in a duck suit. And I said a duck suit because I'm a member of a duck conservancy. We look after ducks in Surrey, where I live.
That was going to be my next question.
Absolutely.
Because I would have loved to see you in duck suit, but I couldn't quite see the correlation. I could have understood if it was cherries or something.
No, it was the duck suit because I get a lot of stick. I get up early in the morning sometimes, go out and feed the ducks and all that kind of stuff. So people associate me with these ducks. And I do like to talk about it because I like to raise money for the Duck Conservancy, you know. So that's what I was going to do. But what I did was, I did what people who are on a losing streak always do, and that is, if you start telling the lie long enough, it might come true. So progressively, after the Christmas of your last season in the Championship, I kept saying, you won't do it, you won't do it, I know you won't do it, and if you do it, I'll jump. I was hoping fate would then carry my passage safely to, you know, to a position where I wouldn't have to do it. But I have to say, if I could have done it, and if the authorities would have allowed, I would have done it, honestly, because I so admire what Bournemouth have done. I mean, as I said to you, I come from Chester, right? Now, Chester had a club about the same size as Bournemouth where my family first came here. And Chester are now in the Vanarama Conference, but for years as a kid, I watched them in what was the old 4th Division. And the idea that they'd ever play with the elite, which is, you know, the way I looked at Bournemouth in those days, was ridiculous. So I know exactly how thrilled the people of Bournemouth must be, because when I was little, when, you know, I was 4 or 5 myself, my dad used to take me to Chester, and I mean, you crunched over a cinder track car park. You went up rackety stairs, not knowing if they're going to collapse below you, you know. You sat in a stand where old men smoked pipes in front of you, you know, and mumbled about the good old days. Not that Chester have ever had any good old days, but being sorry, I'm not being rude to Chester folks. And to think that you've come from that, because that's exactly what Bournemouth were when I first went to see them all those years ago, to what you've done now, it's like a footballing miracle. It is simply brilliant, and what Eddie, your manager, has done is, well, it's a Brian Clough-esque type conversion, if you see what I mean. And every football fan in this country and around the world must be in awe and admire the progress you've made and what you've achieved. And now you've been hit with a terrific stroke of bad luck injury-wise. So I think the whole of the football world's keeping their fingers crossed that somehow you'll survive.
I wanted you to just tell us a little bit more about the last few months, because it wasn't just a case of posting the tweet and getting a bit of abuse on social media. As you mentioned, you've got family down here.
Oh, yes.
And I think the abuse extended to them a little bit as well, didn't it?
Well, it's amazing, really, because my mum lives here. She lives in Ensbury Park, OK? And her doctor has always been a fan of mine. A few years ago, and I worked with Alan Brazil, we wrote the book together called There's an Awful Lot of Bubbly in Brazil. And I still get requests from people to sign that book, and one of them came from my mum's doctor a few years ago. So I signed that and gave it back, and so now he's, you know, he's always, you know, when my mum goes, how's Mike, you know, how's Porky, how's it going? And then he, you know, well, what's he doing about this pier? So, of course, my mother, who thought I'd probably die if I jumped off the pier, you know, my mother's of a certain age, said, well, you know, I'm so worried because if he jumped there, he could die of cold or something like that. And the doctor said, no, don't be silly, you know, it's all right, you know, put a wetsuit on or something like that. So I was even getting medical advice encouraging me to jump, you know, from the medical profession. My sister, who goes shopping in Bournemouth, obviously, comes across people serving in shops who ask, what's that brother of yours doing about jumping off the pier? When's he going to pay his dues? When are you going to do it? And all that kind of stuff, you know. So really, I've had to, you know, pay my dues in some way. So I can't jump off the pier. I would love to have done. Seriously, I would have loved to have done. But it's not possible these days, health and safety and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know that when I said it, by the way. I was absolutely up for it. You know, I would have done it. But they wouldn't have it. So if your club will allow me, I'd like to make a donation to your favourite charity to pay my dues, and as my team Everton are coming here very shortly to play yours, it will be great to be here on the day so I can say a personal sorry and express my admiration to all those Cherries fans.
And this was, of course, all your own doing. You got in contact with the club about a month ago, I think it was, and you said, enough's enough, I want to do this. It wasn't us coming to you, was it?
Well, it wasn't you as a club coming to me, but of course the stick I was getting off the fans, the closer the game got, closer and closer and closer, people were saying things like, oh, on the day that you're coming here, Everton are coming here, we'll all be standing on the pier waiting for you to throw yourself off. What are you going to do about it? So I could have gone underground, you know, but I thought, no, got to face up to these things, you know. And then I thought, what is the best way, really, to organise this so that I don't end up getting thrown off the pier? Because, of course, that was my great worry. You know, if I showed myself on the seafront here, a mob of raging Cherries fans would come and pick me up, trundle me down a pier, and whoosh, I'd be off the end, you know what I mean? I thought that's a bit uncivilised. So I thought I'd better come and see you, Kelly, and say, look, can we be civilised about this? And I want to thank you and the club, your chairman, everybody else, for allowing me the opportunity to do it.
And Jeff has, of course, invited you into the boardroom.
Your chairman is a magnificent man.
What I want to know, Mike, is what's it going to be like for you as a lifelong Everton fan?
Yes.
Sitting alongside the Bournemouth chairman. Are you going to be sitting on your hands, kind of? What are you going to do if Everton win, which
to be honest, it's a situation in which you have to be polite. I mean, I get invited to clubs sometimes, and the one thing you can't do is you can't take your colours into another club's boardrooms. That would be very rude and pushy and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't actually wear a scarf anyway most of the time because I'm not ever sure in what capacity I'm going to be at a game. Sometimes I can go to a game thinking I'm going there and I'll see somebody I know will invite me into here and say, you've got to be quite neutral about it. I would be polite. I mean, I was at, the last game I was at was West Ham, and I was actually in a box with Mark Noble's dad. Mark Noble's the West Ham captain. And they went ahead, and 2 minutes later we equalised. And you just sort of pat each other on the back, you know what I mean? You know, it's a kind of mutual respect type thing. So, no, I won't be jumping up and down. Of course, I want Everton to win. I have to, because I mean, I've been a three-generation Everton fan, really. My granddad was the best friend of Dixie Dean, Everton's legendary goal scorer, England's greatest ever goal scorer. And so, of course, I want them to win. But there's dignity in victory, there's dignity in defeat. And I'm sure whatever happens on that day, and whoever, you know, wins, we'll all end up as friends.
And one thing I don't want to get lost in all of this, you mentioned it then, is the £500 that you've said you will donate to charity.
Yes.
You said the club's chosen charity.
Yes.
I think it's going to go to Julia's House, of which Eddie Howe is a patron of. It's a children's charity.
I'm delighted.
So you must be really pleased that you kind of making a difference.
I'm absolutely pleased. And I tell you what, if I come along on the day with that cheque written out, you can take a picture of it and blow it up. And please put it on the screen somewhere to say that, you know, I have now paid my dues. And then maybe, one of these days, the people of Bournemouth and the Jerry's fans might forgive me. Please forgive me.
Brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to welcoming you along on the day.
That's
You'll be coming onto the pitch with myself, and hopefully the Bournemouth fans can finally forgive you.
Well, OK, that's great. I just need, you know, maybe your protection, Kelly, or somebody else's getting to and from the ground, just in case.
Brilliant. Well, the Bournemouth fans are quite forgiving, so hopefully this will appease them a little bit.
OK, but you have got the bulletproof car.
I'll try and sort it out.
Thank you.